can't really do that continuous. I mean, continuous means uninterrupted. You'd be exhausted fairly quickly, I would say. Maybe it should be called continual innovation. Continual meaning recurring frequently. So what continuous innovation means is, creating an environment for people and an ongoing process to allow innovation to take place. So the process is continuous. The process of discovery, which frequently should lead to invention, and in turn to innovation. So why we're talking continuous innovation? Some of you will be familiar with the traditional, very popular models of continuous improvement, like Kaizen. A friend of mine called it death by 1,000 improvements. And also Six Sigma, like traditional continuous improvement, is dedicated to the reduction of error. Now, I mean, don't get me wrong, I think this is really good stuff and we really need it. It's useful. Companies have to do this. But I also agree with what Robert Cole from UC Berkeley wrote in his paper on this topic. Continuous improvement models are most useful when your company is catching up, or your product. Like Japanese companies during the 60s. And this is where Kaizen originated. When you know where you're going and whom you're competing with, it's useful when you are entering and competing in a crowded space, a red ocean for those familiar with blue ocean strategy. However, it is less useful if you're looking for this blue ocean, if you don't know where you're going, when you're trying to innovate. And innovation is venturing into the unknown. And for this adventure, you'll need a radically different model. And it's not easy, obviously, and there are no magic tricks, also obviously, and no one can give you the recipe. And if there were such a recipe, it would be very silly to use it. It's not about ticking the right boxes and you're done. You'll have to do the work and design it. And why is it necessary? Putting it bluntly, if you are organized the same as your competitors, if you use the same processes, management models, HRM tools, KPIs for measurement, have almost the same visions, values, mission statements, hire the same kind of people with the same resumes, hire the same kind of consultancies, have the same basic approach to marketing. How can you possibly expect that you will deliver anything exceptional? And how can you expect that your customers will be able to tell the difference between you and your competitors? Me as a consumer, I can't tell the difference between the different banks and insurance companies and the telcos. And here's another reason. In a continuously changing world, changing faster and faster and faster, companies need to be adaptable. You can't just have some kind of invention and sit back for the rest of the decade. You need to be adaptable to create sustainable growth, to simply survive. Just think about all the major iconic brands disappearing or being in bad weather, like Kodak, Palm, BlackBerry, Yahoo, Sony, Nokia. The list of companies that failed to adapt goes on. So, answer me this. When everything else changes all the time, why is adaptability not the norm? Why are companies worried about the risk of innovation? We don't know what will happen not fitting your Excel? Just think about the risk of not innovating. We can pretend to know what will happen, but we don't know what will happen. And the cool thing is that innovation can take place on every level in the organization. Value chain ecosystem the organization is part of, not just your output, your product and services. What we see now is companies being very successful with innovative business models and organizational models and processes, like Google's Zappos and Statoil. Statoil. I was really inspired by Norway's Statoil. They, amongst other things, radically changed their traditional static budgeting model to a flexible and adaptable model, not limited to annual agendas. using the beyond budgeting approach. It's very, very inspiring. Just check it on Google. There's a wonderful presentation about it. They now think of budgeting as facilitation and a continuous flow to support what is most important to the company, perform well, and be innovative. So, some will argue, and someone did the other day through Twitter. We had a lot of discussions about this. An organization has a bristle-like structure, Stifler or Little Harris. You stick the fuzzy front end of development on with Velcro. You don't merge it. This reminds me of the wonderful book Orbiting the Giant Hairball by Gordon MacKenzie. He says you cannot change the hairball. We all know the way organizations are organized in the different silos. And he compares it with a hairball. You can orbit it, but you can't change it. On the other hand, Statoil, one of the leading oil companies, like other companies, have been successfully unraveling this hairball. But even they will admit that this is not easy. We all know what the old organizational diagram looks like. All companies look like that. They're pyramid shaped. They have a few big boxes on top, lots of smaller boxes down below. We kind of inherited this from the 1900s, I guess. Now, some companies are flipping the pyramid. Check Google on the inverted pyramid, where the frontline people are on top, and the rest of the organization facilitates them to deliver value to the customers. Kind of makes sense. Or another model, the networked company. This is my favorite. Simply first of all because the design thinking group is organized that way, but also because it fits well within the structure of our network world, the ecosystem, our value network. We generate value with, and it suits the new generation of people, Generation Y. And they are beginning to join the workforce now. Generation Y is keen on freedom, personal development. Empowering them to do so is key to keep them in your company. Comparing yourself to other companies has limited value when it comes to innovation, of course. I think you should ultimately develop a unique model fitting your philosophy, your line of business, culture, history. But when it comes down to innovation, in my experience, companies are specifically not at ease with the fuzzy front end of development. They just don't like anything they cannot measure. And this is kind of difficult to measure. But a creative process always starts with this fuzzy front end. Without this, there is no creative problem solving. There is less chance of invention. And innovation only happens when there is invention. Invention needs creativity, experimenting, prototyping, learning by doing, making mistakes. And creativity needs a culture of trust, a people-centered company, so not a culture where people are afraid of making mistakes. So if innovation is key to sustainable business, and the fuzzy front end is key to innovation, we should invest time and resources to allow for the fuzzy front end of development. So continuous innovation is an ongoing process, an iteration, a process of trying and learning, prototyping, and taking small steps towards implementation, both in continuous improvement and in continuous innovation. This iteration is the key process, one of trying and learning. So a hybrid model seems obvious. Some have called it the prototyping company, allowing for continuous improvement, incremental and radical innovation. Now, there are others who say, these two things they should be separated. These cannot be one model or one process. But whatever way you look at it, a company needs to do all of it. But most important, it should be a people-centered company, a people-centered process, because innovation today is ultimately about people and multidisciplinary collaboration. Whatever model you choose, it should all allow people the freedom and responsibility to unleash their capacity for creative problem solving. create KPIs and incentives to match this model. Not, as so often happens, contradicts your vision. You have to walk the talk. At Design Thinkers Group, we have quite some experience developing different models. Yeah, for instance, together with an innovation team at a large bank, we are implementing a lab system, as we call it, where employees are invited and trained to share and visualize knowledge, discover and design improvements and new offerings as part of their job description. For two interdependent national public transportation companies, we develop what we call an internal innovation network across silos and the different companies to share information, reinventing collaboration, and improving efficiency, effectiveness, minimizing costly mistakes by introducing prototyping. And as a logical consequence, improving customer experience. For a global food company, we designed a networked cell structure for innovation, a global self-regulating system where people function independent, where local creative and multidisciplinary teams, cells, have autonomy and responsibility. They develop local solutions, but use the same creative process to enable sharing and scaling. The teams are connected, and they're connected by the same goals and values. It's a self-regulating system where teams need each other to reach targets. So this is what we call a holistic approach, and to build these models, you'll need a holistic and hybrid toolbox that allows for the tools you need to break all the different walls between the different disciplines. And in service design or service design thinking, as we see it, offers such an open toolbox to equip creative and multidisciplinary teams for exploring, understanding, designing, and implementing solutions to align innovation with value-driven management and business processes, to innovate on all levels, back office, front office, distribution, and customer experience. It offers tools and methods to build a culture of trust and an environment to allow for innovation and ultimately the creation of real value. Because ultimately business is, or should be, about creating value with people and for people. And on that note, I would like to end this talk and invite you to discuss this topic with us. Joel Van Dyke from Design Thinkers Group USA and I will write an article about this topic, and again invite you to share your ideas and opinions and help us learn and help the larger network of professionals learn more about this topic. And I want to thank you very much for listening, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.